So hello everyone, welcome back to the 60 day 60-minute challenge. Today is day 13 and let's see dashboard. So today we'll be starting with unit 2 and evaluation. Yes, at the end there is evaluation. We can see 20, 30, 40. There are around 50 to 60 concepts that we need to study to finish this unit. This unit, if we check the syllabus, organizational behavior comes for 8 marks if we see here. So yeah, once we finish this we should be able to secure 18 marks. Let's go one by one. So let's start. Organizational behavior, first we'll study some significance and theories. So net 3, okay. Two-factor theory of motivation, Herzberg motivation hygiene theory. Two-factor theory of motivation, also known as Herzberg motivation hygiene theory. What we can do is mm, from now on what we will do, we will try to mark the for the theories we discussed previously that we need to remember 2 to 4 things. We'll try to mark it in a Google sheet. Okay, first we'll write unit, which is unit 2. Second, name of theory, name of theory, aka year, founder. So year is 1950s, developer is Frederick Herzberg. So Herzberg proposed there are two distinct set of factors that affect employee motivation and job satisfaction. These factors are motivators and hygiene factors, satisfiers and dissatisfiers. Herzberg's theory suggests that job satisfaction and dissatisfaction are not opposite but are influenced by different factors. Understanding these two categories is key to improving motivation and employee satisfaction. Description. And we can write it as and instead of aka, we will write it as like this, so we can delete this. We can keep okay. Yeah, this is good. So the two-factor theory of motivation by Hertzberg motivation hygiene theory. It says in the name, employee motivation and satisfaction depends on two motivation and hygiene. Motivation as satisfiers lead to increased job satisfaction, and high motivation present external elements of the work environment that, if poorly managed, can lead to job dissatisfaction. So they should give a good idea. Next, also we'll make changes tomorrow by tomorrow on this unit so that we can mark it as complete. Right now we do not see any option to mark as complete. Next, levels of emphasis in organizational behavior. Also, as correctly pointed out, this seems to be a theory of Unit 3. We can see human relation. It is talking about employees, correct, and their motivation and dismotivation. Let's see in the syllabus. It could come under employee engagement and work-life balance. So it could be a theory that belongs to human resource management. We can see later on. Next comes levels and emphasis in organizational behavior. So organizational behavior is a multidisciplinary field that draws from psychology, sociology, anthropology, and management studies. It analyzes human behavior in organizational setting and can be understood across different levels and emphasis, both theoretical and applied at micro and macro levels. This classification helps distinguish between various approaches to studying and managing behavior in organization. Level of emphasis of OB, micro versus macro level. Micro level OB focuses on behavior of individual and small groups within organizations. Okay, so we are talking within organization. This is applied. Macro level OB examines the organization as a whole, including structure, culture, process, and systems. Theoretical versus applied. Theoretical OB is concerned with developing models and concepts to understand behavior. Applied OB involves using theories in practical contexts such as organizational change or human experience. Match explanation. Okay, macro applied in organizational development, micro applied in human resource management. Makes sense. We just focus on it. Macro level focuses on the organization development. If in the syllabus organization development comes and change in OD intervention comes under that topic. Okay, human resource. Macro theoretical organizational theory, micro theoretical organizational behavior. So the theoretical approach and applied approach. Okay. So this technically will form a contingency table. We'll improve this 2 by 2 of the emphasis of OB. We'll study this better tomorrow. Yes, because here the table is, I believe, can be improved by making it like this. You can write it as micro, macro, theoretical, applied. So here between theoretical, my macro applied is organizational development. Is organizational theory. And micro theoretical is organizational behavior. So this is the correct graph which we will draw later. This contingency table. Next. So now we come to behavioral theories. Behavioral theories of learning and behavior primarily focus on observable behaviors and how these barriers are learned and influenced by the environment. In organizational behavior, this theory can often be emphasized. This theory often emphasizes how individuals' actions are shaped by external stimuli and consequences. Classical conditioning Pavlov. This theory posits that learning occurs through the association of a neutral stimulus within a stimulus that naturally brings about a response. Over time, the neutral stimulus alone can elicit the same response. Example. Think about employees associating the ringing of a bell with the arrival of a reward or recognition stimulus that naturally brings about a positive response. Eventually, the bell alone might trigger a positive emotional response or prompt a productive behavior. Example, a supervisor might pair a specific cue with giving employees positive feedback. Over time, employees might start associating that sound with positive reinforcement. This I believe we can simply see in schools where, let's say, if the lunch break is at 1 p.m. the bell rings and everyone shouts in hooray or shows positive behavior that, oh, it's lunch break, let's go, and like a wave of happiness fills the class on hearing that sound of the bell. So yes, that is a classical conditioning behavioral theory by Pavlov. Operant conditioning, Skinner. This is the process by which behavior is influenced by consequences, either rewards or punishment. The basic idea is that behaviors followed by positive consequences tend to be repeated, while those followed by negative consequences tend to diminish. Reinforcement. Positive reinforcement strengthens behavior, praise, bonuses. Aimed at punishment, aimed at reducing undesirable behavior. Reprimands, penalties, extinction, the removal of reinforcement leading to a decline of behavior. An employee receives a bonus for meeting sales target. The bonus serves as positive reinforcement. Um, an employee receives a bonus for meeting sales target. The bonus serves as positive reinforcement, encouraging an employee to continue performing at that level. An employee is reprimanded for tardiness, which is intended to reduce this behavior. And the third is social learning theory. This theory expands on behavioral theory by suggesting that learning occurs not through direct reinforcement but also through observing others. People learn by watching the behavior of others and the consequences of those behaviors. Key concepts: learning occurs by observing and imitating others. Individuals are motivated to engage in behaviors they see being rewarded in others and conversely avoid behaviors they see being punished. Examples: employees often observe the behavior of successful peers or leaders, such as how they communicate with clients or manage time, and attempt to replicate these behaviors. And if an employee sees a colleague receiving a promotion after consistent hard work, they might be motivated to adopt similar behaviors. Behavior. This is by Pavlov operant conditioning. So operant is done then social learning theory. Now we study the cognitive theory. Cognitive theory focuses on the mental processes such as perception, memory, decision making, and problem solving. Unlike behavioral theory, which focuses on observable behaviors, cognitive theory delves into the internal processes that drive those behaviors. Cognitive learning theory suggests that people actively process information, interpret their experience, and use this information to make decisions and solve problems. So first, key components of cognitive theory is cognitive learning. Cognitive learning involves understanding, knowing, and remembering. It is based on the premise that individuals are active participants in their own learning process. This theory highlights the role of internal mental states such as attention, memory, and motivation. Cognitive learning involves understanding, knowing, and remembering. It is based on the premise that individuals are active participants in their own learning process. This theory highlights the role of internal mental states such as attention, memory, and motivation. Employees are not just conditioned by rewards and punishment, they also actively seek to understand their roles, company's culture, and strategies for improvement. When they encounter problem, they actively use cognitive process to solve, like remembering past solution and adapting strategies. Information processing theory. This theory suggests that humans process incoming information in a similar way to how a computer processes data. Information is first gathered, then stored in memory, and finally used to make decisions. An employee might use cognitive processing to evaluate a new task by organizing the necessary information, drawing on past experiences, and formulating a solution. Their performance might depend on not just on external feedback but also on how well they process and recall information. Constructivism. Vygotsky Brunner. This theory emphasizes the idea that knowledge is actively constructed by individuals as they interact with the world and others. Learning is seen as dynamic social process, and people build new understanding based on their existing knowledge base. A team working on a new project might build shared knowledge by discussing their individual perspective, exchanging ideas, and collectively solving problems. Metacognition. Metacognition refers to the ability to monitor, evaluate, and regulate one's own learning and thinking processes. It is the ability to be aware of how one learns and how one adjusts strategies for more effective learning. Employees who are aware of their learning styles or cognitive strength might adjust their strategies when tackling difficult tasks, breaking a project into smaller tasks if they struggle with large complex ones. Now let us study the difference between cognitive and behavioral theory. Focus. Behavioral theory focuses on observable behaviors and external stimuli. Cognitive theory focuses on internal processes like thinking, memory, and problem solving. Learning process. Behavioral theory learning occurs through conditioning responses to stimuli. Cognitive theory. Uh, Conditioning responses to stimuli. Learning involves active internal processing where individuals understand and organize information. Role of learner. The learner is passive, responding to external stimuli. The learner is active, constructing knowledge through mental processes. Application in organization. Behavioral theory focuses on influencing employee behaviors through rewards and punishments. Cognitive theory focuses on improving employee problem solving, decision making, and learning through understanding and reflection. Behavioral approach. Your company uses operant conditioning by rewarding you with bonuses for reaching sales target. If you consistently meet your targets, you receive positive reinforcement. And the behavior is more likely repeated. Cognitive approach. Your company offers training in problem solving and critical thinking so that you can make better decisions when facing challenges. You actively engage with the content, reflect on how lessons apply to your role, and use this knowledge to improve your performance. Both theories offer valuable insight into understanding human behavior in organizations. Behavioral theory is often used in situations where immediate observable change is needed. go to next. Luthan's organizational behavior mod theory 1970, Fred Luthan's. It says that organizational behavior modification theory is a five-step process. First is identify the behavior, measure the behavior, analyze. The next step is to analyze the factors that trigger and follow the behavior. This helps in understanding why the behavior occurs and how to shape or influence it. Once the analysis is done, interventions are implemented to modify the behavior. Interventions could include training rewards for positive behavior, using punishment to deter negative behavior, or eliminating antecedents that lead to undesirable behavior. Fifth is evaluate the behavior. Finally, after implementing the intervention, it is crucial to evaluate outcomes. If the behavior has improved, the management can reinforce this progress and continue applying similar techniques for other behaviors. If there are no change, further analysis and modification of the approach may be necessary. So this is Luthan's organizational behavior modification theory 1970 by Fred Luthans. It says first identify the behavior, measure it, then analyze the trigger and the actions that follow helps in understanding why the behavior occurs. Bit 4, intervene to modify the behavior and then evaluate the behavior. Seems correct. Once you identify the trigger and what happens, the consequence, that is the action that you take after the trigger, then you can uh, uh, change the behavior. You can introduce rewards for positive behavior using punishment to deter negative. Peter Drucker, 1909 to 2005, was an Austrian-born American management consultant, educator, and author, widely regarded as one of the most influential figures in the field of management. Known as the father of modern management, Drucker introduced groundbreaking ideas that shaped how organizations are run and how managers think about their roles. His concepts have impacted business practices, leadership strategies, and organization theory worldwide. Drucker believed in the importance of focusing on results and efficiency while emphasizing human behavior, innovation, and the need for organization. Peter Drucker's management theory is stable. Management by objectives. 1954. Oh, so many theories by Peter Drucker. 1954, managers and employees set clear, measurable goals together with regular feedback and performance reviews. This is good. Knowledge worker focuses on employee whose primary task is intellectual work, not physical work. Decentralization and simplification. Decision making should be decentralized, enabling faster responses and greater employee autonomy. Management as a liberal art. Management should integrate knowledge from various disciplines, including sociology and psychology, to understand human behavior. Theory of businesses. Organization must regularly review their assumptions about the environment, mission, and competencies to stay relevant. Innovation and entrepreneurship. Innovation should be systematically managed and embedded within the organization to foster growth. Purpose of business. The primary purpose of business is to create and serve customers, not just to make profits. We'll see this, how it affects ahead. So we'll take a 5 minutes break, then we'll start with our new topic, new section, which is individual behavior. We'll join back at 8:45. So we are back at it. Individual behavior, personality, perception, values, attitude, learning, motivation. Okay. Perception. And now we'll just discuss first the different terms in individual behavior, perception, attitude, personality, values, what they all mean. Perception. Perception is the process by which individuals select, organize, and interpret sensory information to form meaningful understanding of their environment. It involves interpreting the world around us based on our experience, attitudes, expectation, and other cognitive factors. Two people may witness the same event but interpret it differently based on their personal biases, past experience, or expectations. When you hear a dog barking, your perception of the sound might be influenced by your past experiences. You may perceive it as friendly or threatening. So two people can witness the same event but interpret it differently based on their personal bias, past experience, or expectations. When you hear a dog barking, your perception of the sound might be influenced by your past experience. It is a process by which individuals select, organize, and interpret sensory information to form a meaningful understanding of their environment. It involves interpreting the world around us based on our experience, attitudes, and expectations, and other cognitive factors. Attitude. Attitude refers to a person's settled way of thinking or feeling about someone or something, typically reflected in their behavior. It is an evaluative judgment about people, objects, or events and can be positive, neutral, or negative. Attitudes are belief, feelings, and action tendencies of individuals towards object, ideas, and people. An individual may have a positive attitude towards teamwork but a negative attitude towards change in the workplace. It's a settled way of thinking or feeling about someone or something, having a positive, negative, or neutral experience. Personality. Personality is a sum total of an individual's unique psychological characteristics that shape their behavior, thoughts, and interaction with others. It encompasses consistent patterns of behavior, thoughts, emotions that are relatively stable over time. A person who is extroverted and enjoys socializing has different personality compared to someone who is introverted and prefers solitude. Values. Values are the fundamental beliefs or principles that guide an individual's behavior and decision making. They present what is considered important or worthwhile and help shape a person's actions, a person's attitudes, actions, and lifestyle choices. Values represent basic conviction that a specific mode of conduct or end state of existence is personally or socially preferable to an opposite or converse mode of conduct or end state existence. Values are the fundamental beliefs or principles that guide an individual behavior and decision making. They represent what is considered important or worthwhile and help shape a person's attitudes, action, and lifestyle choices. A person who values honesty will make decisions that prioritizes truthfulness even when it is difficult or uncomfortable. These are the values, fundamental belief or principle that guides an individual's behavior and decision making. Learning. Learning is a process by which individuals acquire new knowledge, skills, attitudes, behaviors through experience, practice, or education. It involves the modification of existing behaviors or the development of new behaviors in response to various stimuli. Motivation refers to the internal or external force that drive an individual to take action towards achieving a goal. It is the desire, energy, and enthusiasm that directs behavior towards a particular objective, such as completing a task or pursuing a goal. An employee may be motivated by a desire for recognition, salary increase, or personal fulfillment in their work. Perception, how we interpret and understand the world around us, a settled way of thinking, of feeling, and influencing behavior. The consistent patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors unique to an individual. The core principles and beliefs that guide behavior and decisions. The process of acquiring new knowledge, skills, or behaviors. Motivation, the drive for energy, that. So mostly in exam we might be confused between perception, attitude, personality, and values. This we have to remember. So perception is one event. Two people can have different perceptions. So it is how individuals select, organize, and interpret sensory information. Example is important. Two people experiencing the same event but interpret it differently. Attitude. Attitude refers to a person's subtle way of thinking or feeling about someone or something, typically reflected in their behavior. It is an evaluative judgment about people, object, or events that can be positive, negative, or neutral. Attitude refers to a person's subtle way of thinking or feeling about someone or something, typically reflected in their behavior. It is an evaluative judgment about people, objects, or events and can be positive, negative, or neutral. Attitudes are belief, feelings, and actions, tendencies of individuals towards objects, ideas, people, and belief. And personality, attitude, it's the settled way of thinking about someone or something, and it can be positive, negative, and neutral. And personality is some total of all the psychological characteristics, the behavior, thoughts, interactions, everything together is called personality. Values, fundamental beliefs that guide people in individual decision making. Next. Trait Theory of Personality, 1930s, by Gordon Allport. Gordon Allport trait theory was developed in 1930s, by which much of his work was published in the 1937 book Personality as Psychological Interpretation. He was one of the first psychologists to focus on the uniqueness of the individual and internal traits that influence behavior. Allport believed that personality is composed of traits, enduring patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that distinguish individuals. Key concepts in Allport's theory. Definition of a trait. A trait is a stable and enduring characteristic that influences behavior across various situations. It is a stable and enduring characteristic that influences behavior across various situations. Allport defined traits as neuropsychic structure within the individual that leads to consistent behavior. ट्रेट हम बोल सकते हैं आदत in Hindi. Basically, three levels of traits are there. Cardinal traits. These are rare but powerful traits that dominate an individual's entire personality and behavior. A person with a cardinal trait is often known primarily for that one trait. Mother Teresa, compassion; Hitler, cruelty or power. These traits are so influential that a person's life seems to revolve around them. Second is central traits. These are general characteristics found in varying degrees in a person. They form the core personality and guide most behavior but don't dominate. Most people have 5 to 10 central traits. Optimism, shyness, sociability, honesty. Third is secondary traits. These are situational or less constrained traits. They appear only in certain situations under specific conditions. Nervousness when public speaking, a love for jazz, or impatience in traffic. These traits are not as obvious or influential. So these are the three levels of traits. Functional autonomy. One of Alport's key contribution was the idea of functional autonomy. A behavior that originally had a motive may continue independently of the original reason. A person may start exercising to lose weight but later continues because they enjoy it. This means mature behavior is self-sustaining, not necessarily tied to past motivation. My emphasis on individuality. Alport emphasized that each person is unique and traits should be understood within the context of individual, rather than through generalized comparison. He criticized other theories like Freud and behaviorists for reducing people to drives or conditioning, arguing instead for humanistic ideographic approach. The traits should be understood within the context of individual rather than through generalized comparison. So we can remember the three traits. That was trait theory. Next is 16 personality theory. 1950s, Raymond Cattell. He was a renowned psychologist, developed a theory of personality using statistical method known as factor analysis. His work aimed to identify the fundamental traits that make up human personality. He developed the 16 personality factor questionnaire was developed as a tool to assess the personality factors. Cattell proposed that personality is composed of a variety of different traits which can be organized into different levels of abstraction. He identified 16 primary factors which he called as source traits. These factors are the core building blocks. Factors like warmth, reasoning, emotional stability. But yeah, this we can go through in general. The 16 primary personality factors by Raymond Cattell. Warmth, reasoning, emotional stability, dominance, liveliness, rule consciousness, social boldness, sensitivity, vigilance, abstractedness, privateness, apprehension, openness to change, self-reliance, perfectionism, tension. Beyond the five factors, these 16 primary factors can be further organized into five broader dimensions, later built on Cattell's work, leading to the development of big five personality traits. This we have to remember. The 16 traits, primary factors, we can just go through to get an idea. Now this is important. The big five personality traits: openness, consci- conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, neuroticism. Openness is imagination, creativity, and willingness to try new things, related to abstractedness and openness to change. Conscien- consciousness, consciousness, organization, dependability, and self-discipline, related to Kettle's perfectionism and rule consciousness. Extraversion, sociability, energy, and assertiveness, related to Kettle's warmth, liveliness, and dominance. Agreeableness, compassion, cooperativeness, and empathy. Kettle's sensitivity and warmth. Neuroticism, emotional instability, anxiety, and moodiness, related to Kettle's emotional stability and apprehension and tension. So we need, this one is an important, the big five personality trait developed in 1980s by Costa and McCree. They say that they developed through extensive psychological research. These traits are believed to represent the basic structure of personality and are used to describe and predict individual behavior across various human contexts, especially in organizational behavior and psychology and human resource. So the five personality traits, we call it as ocean. Openness to experience refers to a person's imagination, creativity, curiosity, and willingness to try new things. Often innovative or unconventional in approach, creative, open-minded, adventurous, intellectual, likely to excel in research, design, innovation, or artistic fields. Low openness, conventional, prefers routine and tradition, may resist change or unaware. High, great for roles requiring creativity, adaptability, or strategic thinking, may excel in structured, where there is low openness, may excel in structured rule-based roles. Consciousness reflects a person's degree of self-discipline, organization, goal orientation, and reliability. Plans ahead, meets deadlines, pays attention to details, sets clear goals, and follows through. High consciousness, responsible, hardworking, dependable, thorough, linked to high job performance, especially in managerial or leadership roles. Low consciousness, disorganized, careless, procrastinates, lacks focus, may struggle with consistency and time management. Workplace relevance, strong predictor of success across all industries. High consciousness, better performance, reliability, and lower absenteeism. Extraversion, whether you prefer to be outgoing, energetic, and socially oriented. Enjoys talking, socializing, seek excitement and stimulation, comfortable in leadership or group settings. Thrives in roles like sales, public relations, politics, or team leadership. Low extraversion, may prefer independent work or analytical roles. High extraversion, excels in interactive client-facing or fast-paced environments. Low extraversion, suitable for technical research-based or solo work. Agreeableness describes a person's tendency to be compassionate, cooperative, and harmonious. High agreeableness enhances team cohesion, customer service, and employee satisfaction. Low agreeableness can drive competition, rational decision making, or critical analysis. Neuroticism is emotional stability versus emotional stability. Measures a person's emotional reactivity, impulse control, and stress tolerance. If it is high neuroticism, it can reduce job satisfaction and increase burnout. If it is low, it contributes to resilient leaders, stable teams, and mental well-being. So, ocean. It can be used in hiring and selection, team dynamics, leadership development, job satisfaction. Key features: it is empirically supported, means we have done extensive research and derived it mathematically using statistics, universally applicable, stable over time, non-pathological. Yeah, this, So we'll stop here and we'll just go through the evaluation right now. Again, on average, we cover around 8 to 10 topics per 1 hour. Let's see. Let's just start. This we haven't studied yet, so low tolerance, high tolerance, and intuitive way of thinking. Analytical situation. So directive style, someone who wants to direct, so they would prefer low tolerance of control. A, we would try to go with 3. So there are two options. Behavioral depends on D, 1 or 2. Behavioral style, high tolerance for ambiguity and intuitive way of thinking, low tolerance for ambiguity. Behavior conceptual. Behavior would be high tolerance for ambiguity because in conceptual you need to have a concept mind map of what is happening. So there will be low tolerance, I believe. So we'll go for D for 1 and it is D for 2. So let's try again, shall we? Examples of need of status. Having executive privilege is a need, yes. Being in a position of authority over others is a need for status, yes. Participating in pleasant social activities could be. Working for the right company in the right job, no, this is not. D is not the answer. D is here, D is here, D is here. We could go A, B, C only. And answer is B, D, E. We still have to study. It means Leichhardt has proposed only 6 dimensional of organizational climate. Who proposed the seventh? Mm, Litwin and Stringer. I'll try again. The status of the person being perceived will greatly influence others' perception of the person. The visible traits of the person perceived will not influence others' perception of the person. Second is false. The visible traits that are there, the person will affect. So second is false. Now both are false or one. Let's say one because the status will have an influence. What are the problems commonly associated with scientific management? Let's see. Workers feel comfortable due to the job security and practice work. This is so wrong. When they see that they are specializing work that they are doing is being specialized, so workers feel comfortable due to job security. They feel insecure that they might be replaced because now output has increased. So overall the feeling is okay, we used to produce 100 parts, now we are producing 200 parts. So maybe they'll remove people. That's why there is hesitancy for improving the productivity. So this is the exact opposite. Workers feel uncomfortable. Workers do not feel comfortable because of heavy pressure of work. Could be, yes. These are the problems that, yes, pressure might increase on the workers. 4 is definitely not there. 4 is not there for a 1 3 or 1 3 5. So 1 3 is there in both. We have to decide on 5. 5. Let's see the correct 1 3. Managers often implement only the increased output part of the plan. That is true. Jobs become oversimplified and repetitive, often replaced by new technology. This is also true. Workers do not feel comfortable because of heavy pressure of work. This is true. So that is how you do. This is scientific management. We can move it. Two sets of theories are popular in the organizational behavior literature, the behavior and cognitive. Behavioral theory we just studied. Cognitive is the internal part, behavioral is the external part where you can interact with the stimuli and make changes. So this is the classical conditioning which we just studied by Pavlov, operant conditioning by Skinner, social learning theory also by social learning by Bandura. So these three are definitely there, A, B and D. Which one of the following is not an internal force for organizational change? This we have to study. Organizational change as per syllabus would be organizational development and change. So this will go. Let's see. Let's evaluate. Which of the following is not an internal force of organizational change? In leadership is an internal event, so it is an internal force. Change in employee and customer, workforce diversity, managerial behavior. So if leadership changes, there can be a change in organization, can or a change in leadership can bring about an organizational change. Correct. New leaders, new thinking, new style of doing things. Managerial behavior, same. Change in managerial behavior can bring about organizational change. Change in either it is B or C. Workforce diversity is not again, is not info. Change in employee and customer yeah, customer expectation is the external part. Change in customer and this customer expectation is the external part. It is not internal. They are outside of the company. For example, which one of the following is India's best company to work with? Not an insurance because it is commission based. The employees who are working need insurance, so it is mental and everything, not so stable as the other companies. It would be, I believe, Blue Dart, maybe no NTPC or DHL. Mm, we'll go with DHL. This is that question was theoretical. You cannot do if you do not know. You can just guess. So don't worry about it. You have to let go of such questions in examination. A phenomena in which the norm for consensus overrides the realistic appraisal of alternatives is this will brainstorming is coming up. See, a phenomena, the condition it means the condition in which the norm for consensus that everyone should decide together even overrides the realistic appraisal of alternatives. Even if the answer is wrong, doesn't matter. It should be with together. So this is group shift or group think, I think, because brainstorming is arriving at the correct alternative course of action using everyone's, but no, consensus not generally required. It is group shift or group think. We will go with group think. Yes. We studied two-factor theory. Two-factor theory was by the two-factor motivational theory. Is this the two-factor theory? Yes, two-factor theory of Frederick Hirschberg. Frederick Hirschberg, we see the first time, so we know now. And theory X and Y, remember we studied previously in chapter 1. It is a motivational theory, okay? But we studied it as Douglas McGregor, if you remember from unit 1. So these two we know. What is the need hierarchy theory? Okay, so these two we know. So let's see, for B it is 1 for 2 and for D it is 3. This one is the answer. You see, out of 4 you need to know only 2. A system of shared meaning held by an organization member that distinguish the organization from others. A system of shared meaning that held by an organization members that distinguish the organization from other would be organization culture basically. है ना? What forms the culture? What values do the employees believe in? What values do they bring? According to Maslow hierarchy of need, we just studied the ocean part, and it is based on 16 personality theory. Which one of the following organizational aspect will not be included in self-actualization? Okay, we didn't study Maslow, we studied Ocean. It is the big five personality trait. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we'll study ahead. Mm, I would say from this job challenge. Status, okay. So it ends there. We got 8 questions out of 121, which is good for a start. Most of this we guessed, only 1 or 2 questions was based on the theory that we studied. So as we move on, we'll be more acquainted with the theories that come up. Also, we saw that theory X and Y belongs to, uh, you know, X and Y. So changes for tomorrow. Okay. 1. The scientific management question we saw belongs to Unit 1. Second, theory X and Y is a motivational theory, belongs to Unit. Theory X and Y is a motivational theory, belongs to Unit 2. What else? And third thing we need to change, course progression for Unit 2 and Unit 2 evaluation full screen. These 4 changes we will make by tomorrow. So that will have, because see, if I restart this quiz, I did not see an option where I could, uh, we did not see an option where we could go full screen for it. See, there is no option for full screen. Also, we'll prepare this Excel sheet which will help us later in the exam. But if I go to Unit 1, Unit 1 evaluation, we will start. You see here we have a full screen option. So we'll just make these changes by tomorrow. So yeah. So that will be all for today. We have covered good 10 topics for Unit 2, and I'll see you tomorrow. Any questions, do let me know in the comments below, and thank you, and I'll see you